Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Urban Update. I'm Byron Barnett. On the show today, we'll give you all the details on the largest Latino holiday gala in New England. That's in just a bit. And if you've ever thought you should be in a movie, TV show, or commercial, or maybe it's your pet that you think is irresistible and made for the small screen, we'll chat with our friends from Boston Casting, who can maybe make that happen. But up first, the incredible story of the Syracuse 8. In 1970, 8 members of the Syracuse football team walked out of a spring practice to protest racial discrimination on campus. Named the Syracuse 8, they became known as the true story of the African-American members from the Syracuse University football team who petitioned for racial equality with a list of grievances seeking equal treatment for all student athletes and a more diverse coaching staff. As the national debate over their boycott spilled into the newspapers and drew protests from around the country, the players never received a response acknowledging their demands. The Syracuse 8 eventually saw their athletic careers end despite efforts by football legend Jim Brown. They sat out the following season but were allowed to keep their scholarships and graduate. 8 of the 9 left Syracuse with a degree. Eventually, the Syracuse 8 were honored in the 2006 with the Chancellor's Medal, among the highest honors at that university. And although they lost out on potential pro football careers, the group received their long-denied Letterman jackets and an official apology from the school. Joining us this morning is one of the members of the Syracuse 8, Abdullah Alif Muhammad, who was originally from Cambridge and still makes his home right here in the Boston area. Welcome to Urban Update. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Now, I just want to say, just starting off, that it's amazing that you're here because it's just because of a chance encounter that I had with your son on the commuter rail one day that we met up and started talking about you. That's really amazing.
Yes, sir. And he also told me not to embarrass him on TV, so
I don't think
I'll do my best.
I think that you can do that. By the way, you were called the Syracuse 8, but there were actually 9, so it was sort of incorrectly titled Syracuse 8. But that might be a little confusing for some people, but it's the Syracuse 8.
It's the Syracuse 8. 8 athletes actually walked off the field in 1970, the spring of 1970. Okay. One was kicked off the year before, but it was actually 8. Okay. And our story is about the 8 in Syracuse.
Okay, let's just get into a little bit in your own words. Just sort of take us back to 1970 and what propelled you to boycott football practice at Syracuse University?
Well, it wasn't something that just happened. It was a thing that kind of was brewing and brewing and brewing. We had been through this before. Several promises had been broken to us. There were several demands. I guess my sophomore year I came back and they had an incident on the field where Caucasian players, 5 of them jumped one African-American player. An African-American player beat all 5 of them. And then he suffered the consequences from the coach. And we were like trying to figure out, wait a minute, it was 5-1. What was, that didn't seem right.
Were we all on the same team?
All on the same team, all on the same team. So the Human Rights Commission asked us to have a meeting to discuss our differences and stuff in the team meeting, and we did. And the MO for the university at that time was to ask their star running back or athlete, we hear there's a racial problem. And I was asked, Big Al, we hear there's a racial problem on the team. And traditionally, the athlete is supposed to say, no, coach, I don't have a problem. But in this case, I did have a problem. I mean, it was an age-old problem brewing that came up to our demands. We wanted better academic treatment for all athletes. Academic in terms of, like, I was a civil engineering major. I almost went to the University of Minnesota because I had a program that I was interested in. And they wanted me to take general reading, take the techniques of basketball, the techniques of football by the coaches. You would get an A and be eligible to play, but you wouldn't graduate. So we wanted better academic treatment, we wanted better medical treatment. We were a D1 division men's football team, and we had a gynecologist as a team doctor. Now, when I say that to young people, they don't know what a gynecologist is.
Well, I do. I can't imagine what a gynecologist would be doing on a football
You ain't the only one. You aren't the only one. But that was some issues we had. Well, what it was he was an excellent golf player, and he was a coach's tutor.
Well, now, how were your grievances met, or were they?
They weren't. They weren't. We had 4 major demands. One is better academic treatment for all athletes, better medical treatment for all athletes. We wanted to be treated on merit as opposed to skin color. Same thing that Martin Luther King said, judge a man by the content of their character. And the 4th one was to get us a culture of diversity. And they got some for that, but they didn't meet the other demands.
Now, just try to give the people just kind of a sense of the climate of the times. One of your teammates, the racial climate of the times I'm talking about, he was warned right from the beginning. He was riding with the coach as he joined the team, and the coach told him that whatever you do, just don't date any white girls.
Right. That was his ride from the airport, his first encounter coming to the university, picked up by the coach that recruited him, and told him on a 10-minute ride. And he was thinking of all the things I had to know about the university and the football team and this and that. This was the priority that the coach mentioned to him. Now, that was about talking about dignity. Our story is about, we are human beings. A couple of instances. One is I was told by the coach that you got to be a football player first, and you can be black, colored, Negro, whatever you want to be second. All right, we had one player who was told, you got either going to be a football player or you're going to be black. And he said, yo, coach, well, I'm going to be black all my life. I'm only going to play football for a few years of it.
Now, in 2006, you were finally recognized. You did get actual recognition in a ceremony. There's a little picture of it right here. I think we put that up on the screen. There's Jim Brown right there. You got as well. Talk to me about that, finally getting recognized and what that meant to you.
It meant quite a bit. It was years I had turned off the football.
An apology also. You got an apology for the university.
Yes, and I say the stars were lined up. This was a time, first in 2005, they have a thing called CBT, Coming Back Together. And at the time, Larry Martin, the vice president of program development, had us come back to tell our story. 35 years to give our perspective on the Syracuse 8 and the boycott. People don't like to use the word boycott. And so we came back in 2005, and in us telling our story, I mean, the people were flabbergasted. They were unbelievable. I mean, they came up, they set up a committee with Art Monk, who's an NFL Hall of Famer,
That's
Syracuse guy, who with Angela Robinson, Floyd Little, and a few others, put together a committee, and they decided to give us the Chancellor's Medal of Extraordinary Courage, and that was in 2006. And that's the picture you saw that Jim Brown came back, keynote speaker. Something that's heart-shattering, oh, I hit the microphone,
That's okay.
was that he compared our situation to 2 things, and it's in the forward in the book. Muhammad Ali situation and Nelson Mandela. Who was locked up for what he believed in.
That's quite a bit of company
Yes, it
you have
was.
there. Now, we should point out that Jim Brown, football great Jim Brown, Syracuse alum as well, he tried to intervene during this time, but that didn't do any good at all.
No, it didn't.
And we should also point out that a lot of people, when they hear about this, the first thing they think about is, comparing it to Colin Kaepernick, but you don't really put yourself in the same category there.
Well, it's like people would the struggle goes on,
Yes.
and Kaepernick is not the first. Before him, there was the Syracuse 8. Before that, it was Tommy Smith and John Carlos. I mean, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown. I mean, Paul Robeson, who was a fantastic scholar athlete. That people, we need to research him. And as we were talking earlier, Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson, you know.
I mean, these are greats.
I'll do the fighting. He said, so that means I'll do the talking too. He was a businessman.
It sounds like Muhammad Ali. Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
By the way, we should also point out that this did have an impact on you, all of you, because that really ended your football careers. Many of you had shots at the NFL, but this killed it, correct?
We were, they don't like using this word either, blackballed by the NFL, and the NCAA turned a blind eye to us and had nothing to do with our situation. Also, there was not a lawyer in Syracuse that would take that case.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There's a book out, Leveling the Playing Field, David Mark, the story of the Syracuse 8. This is an amazing story, absolutely amazing. I've read quite a bit about it. I'm going to have to read this book myself. Okay. What has this experience meant to your life, taught you? What do you say to people to sort of wrap things up here about that this experience has, what has it meant to you?
Well, it's me as a teacher. I think it's a message to our youth, to our future generations, that it's okay to do the right thing. It's okay to do that. And young people are the agents of change. And we gotta, as old timers, we gotta have the courage to adapt our thinking and old ideas to deal with them, to bring them more into the future. I mean, justice and equality is something that all people need. I mean, the human aspect, strive for excellence, not color, not color. Just like a great American said that Boston doesn't have a race problem. Boston has a mind problem, the intelligence, our thinking. Because I tell my students, as you know better, you should do better. But if you don't know no better, you can't do much better.
Any frustration at all, or anger, or bitterness, resentment?
No, not at all, sir. I mean, that question was asked if we had to do it all over again, would you do it all over again? And we were at a book signing at Syracuse University, and here was Greg Allen was speaking, and he had his wife and his children and his grandchildren, and it was like, change to not have this. I mean, I have 7 children, or we have 7 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 on the way. I love it. I mean, life is a struggle, but I love it.
That is absolutely amazing. At the time, it must have been awfully difficult at the time, going through this as a young man. What are you, 18, 19, 20 years old?
Yes, sir.
You didn't have that much experience in life yet.
Not at all.
I guess has your thinking about this whole thing evolved over the years and decades?
Yeah, as you reflect in his life, I think I've been very fortunate and blessed as I've traveled through this journey through life, and the people I've met and the mentors that have influenced my life and have been in it, I think have made a difference. For me, this event springboarded me, I think, to my path in life. I think I'm a change agent. I'm here to do better, to teach and work with people, and I want to make the world a better place than it is today when I leave here. And I have children I hope that are working on it. It's my son that made this happen. Just bumping in with you. Yes, sir.
And finally, I guess what message do you have for those who view protests like this in a negative light? We see the reaction that's going on in the NFL, the way some of the fans have reacted to it, and the owners and so forth.
Well, I think one of our biggest challenges as a people is ignorance, and people need to understand. You got to understand, there's a time in this country that education and reading was illegal. It was illegal. Now, why?
Correct.
So now we need to understand it's legal, and now people aren't overly enthused about education. You wonder why a foreign who's come here, they can't believe this free education, and they take advantage of this opportunity. It's about having the right attitude. And if I could, I know we're running short on time, but I'd like to read something here, words of our ancestors and elders. And it says, "We are all ambassadors for justice and equality, and we must serve as forward-moving catalysts for human rights. Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did, it never will." And those are from the words of Frederick Douglass. So, I mean, we need to come together.
All right.
We need to make a difference.
All right. Well, this has been a true honor interviewing you, Mr. Abdullah Alif Muhammad, one of the members of the famed Syracuse 8. Yes. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for everything you've done.
Yes, sir. And please have us come back again. Now,
oh, absolutely.
Others in the area, yes, sir.
Let's get the whole group of you in here if we can.
All right. Is your executive producer listening?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'd be glad to.
Okay. Thanks again. Thanks so much, Abdullah, for coming in. Well, coming up next, are you interested in being considered as part of a cast for a feature film or commercial or reality TV? Well, our next guest might just be able to make that happen. Our friends from Boston Casting join us next right here on Urban Update.